What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 4, Episode 8. And it's called Chapter 65, In Treatment.
And don't forget, guys, stick around for the ending because we are going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, our best lines. So be sure to stick around for that.
And we also have our contest going on right now for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and a pop socket. To enter, just rate and comment on our iTunes page and you'll be entered in the draw. We are actually extending this contest to the end of the season, and that is when we'll be drawing one lucky winner. So make sure you guys apply and you could win
a free gift card. You would think that they'd want it before Christmas to get presents, but
it ain't happening, y'all.
All you guys have to do is go on iTunes and rate the Riverdale podcast, and that's like, give it 5 stars.
Super easy.
And say, hey, I love J-Lag and MB, and that's it. Literally, like, that's how you enter. That's it.
Anyway, as always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the episode, y'all.
Oh, yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, right off the top, give me all of your feels.
You know what?
Give it to me. I'm Mrs. Burble. You tell me how you feel.
First of all, I think Gina Torres, best option, best like actor choice for this character.
Yes.
This character was much needed. This character was much needed since like season 1, episode 4, maybe, after the whole like what's it called, the maple sticky thing. Like, they needed a guidance counselor this entire freaking time, and for them to address it at this point, yes, it's been long and you know, we've been waiting for it, but I respect it, and I think it was so evident like why our characters needed this episode, and I hope it doesn't end. Like, I hope she keeps, like she says.
Me too. I think the one thing that I was bummed about is the fact that it felt like a very standalone episode where they even creatively set it up where it was like case number 65,
it kind of felt
case
like
number
that
70.
episode in season, was it 2, where it was like Josie and then Betty.
Yes.
It felt like that. Like, the template was sort of like that way.
Which is why I feel like it probably won't continue. Like, she's probably
they
just a temporary character for this episode.
Yeah, they're not going to pay Gina Torres for the whole season.
But I do hope and wish that they have some version of this, because I think there was so much that came out of this episode.
Having said that, do you think, and we can talk about this later, but let's just hint at it right now, do you have any predictions as to who is she working for? Could she be working for anyone? Could there be like an evil thing behind her character? Or is she just a one-off like role?
We can definitely get into it. I do think that there was one moment in time where I was a little weary of her. I think it was with Archie when she stands up, when she finds out that he could be or could not be a vigilante. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why is she standing up? Like, this is very, she's just like getting up in his face about it. And that was a time where I was like, okay, like, is she like a secret police person? Like, is she working for Mr. Honey? Is she about to like run to the police to like tell them something? I wasn't sure what her motivation was at that point, but yeah, I think it's possible. What do you think?
Okay, I have one question, and maybe you can answer this. Maybe our fans can. What kind of candy was she eating? Did they ever mention it?
I don't know. Oh, this is an actual clue.
Like, I'm thinking for some reason, and I tried to go back and like watch the episode and like try to hear for it. I swear I thought I heard her say nougat was like her favorite like candy or something.
Right.
And the main ingredient in nougat is honey.
Ooh.
But like, I also could be obsessing over chocolate and candy right now, so like, I don't know if I'm actually onto something, or because here's the thing, like, she did.
You're right. She does mention nougat.
Yeah, does she mention it?
Yeah, she does mention nougat. I think that even Cheryl says like, I don't want your nougat candy.
Oh, okay. So,
and then at the very end, I think Jughead takes the nougat from the bowl.
Look, I could just be being really extra right now, but I definitely feel like they brought her in because like we think she's like this like savior figure for our characters. I feel like they might flip that around and like make her evil in the end. Yeah, but I don't know if I'm down for that. I don't know.
I mean, I would love to just have her as a character who just came in to help the kids, because I just feel like that was necessary. It's Riverdale, so it's possible that there's another layer to this, but I'm just going to pretend that all of this is a coincidence, because I love this episode. Like you said, I think it was so necessary for us to get here with the kids, really air out all the shit that's been happening in the past 4 seasons. And yeah, it came at a perfect time. The whole episode starts off with the reason why she's there, which is really to help the kids through an emotional time because it's college admission time. Yeah. And they're getting, rejection letters and acceptance letters. And she comes into the school to be like that buffer or that person that can help with like the emotional support of it. So there's that aspect of it. But then there's also an aspect that has to do with the VHS tapes, which doesn't really come back around in this episode. But it is mentioned that we get another series of VHS tapes. Jughead's narrating this in the beginning, and he says they're still being sent to people's front doors, but now like the frame is closer, like it's even closer.
They zoomed
which
in.
Number one, yeah, they did a digital zoom. But like that's the one thing that I was like, do you guys not know, like if you know that there is somebody recording you, wouldn't you be monitoring your homes?
Yeah.
Like I really want to know how they're going to tie this in, because it's the one piece of this whole puzzle that I feel like is very like, why are we doing this right now? Like, why is there VHS tapes around? And is it
really that dramatic? Like, I feel like they're making it so dramatic, but no one's doing anything. Like, no one's like, guys, let's get to the bottom of this. They're just like watching the tapes every week. They're like, oh, cool. Like, get some popcorn. Like, let's watch. Like, what did they find this week? I'm like, okay, you're either going to stop this or stop watching.
Or you're just going to like let it happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, whatever. So we're going to move on. So Mrs. Burble comes in. And it starts off at the Cooper Res. I don't know why I keep calling it the Cooper Res. They use Alice Smith a lot this episode, and it's obviously not the Cooper Res anymore. It's the Jones residence. So, but I'm just going to keep calling it that because it's easier for me to do that. So right off the top, Alice is like, so Betty, when did you start lying to your mother, you liar? And Betty's like, I don't understand what's happening. She finds out that she doesn't get into Yale. And Alice puts together the reason why she's not going to Yale is because she found birth control pills in like a fake drawer, part of her drawer. Yeah. And so she loses it on Betty.
God, Betty's, Mom.
She's like, Mom, what the hell? What's wrong with you? I can't believe you went through my stuff. And the one thing that I like picked up on right away was, what did Alice think Betty and Jughead were doing this entire time? This is why
I love this episode, because I feel like they call themselves out on every single thing. Like, even Betty asks her mom, she's like, what the hell did you think we were doing when I was sleeping in his bed? Like, obviously we're having sex, you dumbass. So it's just like, I can't even make fun of it this episode in the counseling because session. They call themselves out like for every little thing. So I was super impressed.
And that's what I did love the fact that they aired out literally no stone was unturned. And so speaking of the Cooper girls, they start off their this whole counseling session with Betty. Betty goes in to talk to Mrs. Burble, and she sees Alice walk right in to the counseling session.
Yeah, she's like, Mom, what the hell are you doing here?
She's just like blasted, and Mrs. Burble's like, do you want her not to stay in? And Betty just says like, you can try to make her leave. She's not going to leave. So they're already setting a really tense tone between the two of them, and Miss Burble's like, okay, well, let's like break this down. There's a lot of emotion here, and it's interesting because Alice uses a lot of defense where she's like, I was under the influence of Edgar during the farm. But then at the same time, Betty's like, but you also admitted to the fact that you were a FBI undercover agent.
This is the thing that doesn't make sense about Alice's character. And you can tell that they fucked up along the way, like making this storyline work for her, because it doesn't make sense. Because she's like, I was doing it to like to be a thing for the FBI. She's like, bro, like you literally got me killed and got yourself killed, and you ditched me. Like you did too many fucked up things to like justify. I was just free for the FBI. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. You're right. There's that point in time where you're like, no, the writers just fucked up. They don't know how to go back on this. And I almost wish that the writers like called themselves out and was like, it's like you're writing the stupid comic book storyline with me, like something that they could have said that would have made it all like really funny.
Or like, Mom, you didn't even know where your story was going and you just did it. Kind of thing. Like,
something like true. That would have been a great line For sure. Because, yeah, as she's explaining herself, like, Alice is caught in the middle of it all. And, yeah, you want to believe that she is this character that everybody said is going to be, you know, she was working for the FBI and she was doing all this undercover stuff. But then she does admit while she's in the counseling session, she's like, but I was under the influence of Edgar at that time. And I'm like, okay, so which one were you? Were you actually under the influence? Or were you like, anyway. So they have a bunch of conversation in between the two of them. I think the main context is Alice talks about, or I guess Gina Torres' character, Mrs. Burble, says, you know, you obviously have control issues. Why do you feel like you need to control Betty? And Alice kind of ends off the entire her entire kind of speech with Betty by saying, I love you more and I love you the most. And then she can't help herself, and then she has to walk away from the situation because she realizes, oh shit, I have other kids.
So I did not expect this conversation to go the way that it did. Like, I definitely
it went
thought,
hard,
like,
yeah,
because the writing was really good so far. So I was like, oh, like they're gonna get to like some like heavy like points. And then in the end, it was just like, Alice was like, you're my favorite. That's why. I was like, oh, aren't moms like not supposed to have a favorite though? Like,
exactly. unless you're Kris Jenner, you're not allowed to have a favorite.
It was just such a weird ending to like such an epic conversation. And I just didn't understand. It's like, where do you go from here? Because like even Betty was like, you still have a daughter. Like, you still have a son.
But yo, that line, the way that they wrote that in at the very end literally brought me to tears.
Part?
Like, we'll talk about it at the very end, but like when they have that moment at the very end where she finds the check and she turns to her mom, I was full tears. I was like, oh, this is why they said that in the beginning. Like, it was, guys, like, honestly, big ups to the writers. I'm just going to say that right off the top. I was so impressed with what they went through in like 45 minutes worth of an episode. Sure. They really covered everything off, and it wasn't like, didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like
cheesy.
They were,
you know, like they hit on some like really like real topics for, I think, for like young adults that like we go through with the dynamic of our parents and like, you know, or just guardians in general. Like, it's things. Yeah, I don't know. It was real.
And how it fucked, you know, it fucks up Betty, and Betty's, you know, just trying to like live her best life, and her mom's just not there and wasn't present. And for her to finally come to that point at the very end, I was like, oh shit, this is some real amazing like story that
and it's really at the bottom of it all. It's calling themselves out. Like, it's like the writers are calling themselves out, and they are now like they have to answer these questions, you know, that we've had for seasons. So I loved it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so moving on to the next person, we're going to talk about our good old Archie Andrews.
Oh, geez.
He falls asleep in class, and he gets sent to Miss Burble to talk about, you know, his shitty behavior at school. And his big struggle that he mentions to Miss Burble is the fact that he feels all this insurmountable amount of pressure to clean up the town. And, you know, since his dad died, he feels like he needs to take up the helm. And, you know, she even says something that I was like, why aren't we mentioning this? You know, where did Andrew's construction even go? Mm-hmm. You know, Mrs. Burble's like, so you're feeling pressure because you have to take on the construction company? And he's like, no, forget the construction company. I'm trying to be a hero. I'm trying
business. To be She's like, oh, okay.
I was like, I'm pretty sure your dad would have wanted you to be in the construction business. Like, I think that's what he would have wanted more than anything
What did
else.
you think about, I just want to ask you this quickly before we forget, when he was like, I go out at night, and then she was like, she's like, you go cruising in Fox Forest? And he's like, no, not like that. What did you
think? Like, she out here thinking that he's
like,
homo.
What did you
and
think
I was
of
like,
that?
well,
I was like, that's kind of random and like a little like,
I mean, for one, he's the one that said it. He's the one that said he goes out at night. Yeah, but so I think she's just trying to make the connection. You know what I mean? Like, what else would he be doing out at night? You know? So I think she was just trying to, like, what else is sketchy that you would do as a male teen in the middle of the night? I just think that it's hilarious that Fox Forest came back around after all these seasons. It's become the what I mean. Literal hookup area. I almost feel like
she's so caught up. It's like she listened to our recap and was like, these are all the things that happened in Riverdale. It's like someone told her like everything that happened, and she was like recapping it with the students. It was weird. I don't know.
And To your point, I think that that's a good place to look at because, you know, what you were saying about the fact that she knows so much, there could be something there in terms of, you know, like whether or not she has like an inside scoop or somebody's telling her something.
Because like I definitely feel like as a guidance counselor, like, yeah, you need to know like your students' lives and like their backgrounds. Like I get that. But she knew like little details from like season 1, episode 9. Like,
yeah. It's true. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they bring her back and she ends up becoming this like crazy character. But I think I like where she kind of stood in all of this. But it all ends off, like I was saying earlier, where Archie starts to get more and more frustrated and angry with her assumptions of him, and he's like, it makes me angry when you think that I'm stupid and I don't know anything. And I was like, whoa, all this real energy and real frustration is coming from Archie, and you're getting this point of view that, you know, all this time we're like, oh, Archie, what a dum-dum, but him addressing it makes you feel like you can be like, oh, so at least he's aware of himself.
But no one thought he was
aware
stupid. We did, but we're not in the show.
I was like, yeah, no, it's true. But I think that him trying to present himself to Miss Burble and him speaking out loud made him also realize how dumb he's being, which I think that whole self-reflection, that understanding of what you're doing wrong is so big in these shows. And for them to do it in this episode this way, I was like, I'm down. Like, sure. Archie, like, figure your life out. You need to look in a mirror and figure out that you're doing some shit wrong.
But it's interesting, and I really respected the way that they handled his storyline, because right from the get-go, like, he was like, she's like, you're not going to college, like, you didn't apply. And, you know, not necessarily like everyone's like storyline is going to go the same way. Like, apply to school, you get accepted. That's so you're so happy. Everything works out. Like, his storyline is so different, and it still matters. It's still important. It's still important to tell his story. So it was just like a different route to take with him, because everyone else is pretty much like based around school, except for Cheryl, maybe.
It's true. Yeah. His is like, I want to just run a business. His is like,
what do you do for your own legacy, or like yourself, kind of. Like, it was cute.
And for the town and all that stuff. And so her thing is basically like, don't go out at night anymore. You're going to get hurt. Your family and your loved ones are going to get hurt. Just try to stay away from that lifestyle. You can find other ways to help. You can start a hotline and all this other stuff, because he's feeling this like insurmountable amount of pressure to help every single person. I think it was really sad seeing him, like, all the characters, all the actors were fantastic, and how they broke down in these moments, and, you know, seeing him frustrated and sad was like really sad for me to see. I was like, fuck yeah, Archie's been going through some shit. Like, he lost his dad.
Yeah, I mean, like, they all have gone through really fucked up shit. Like, they should be breaking down like this, you know?
For sure. It's like high time that this happened. So he ends up, after that whole session, he goes home and he tells his mom that he decides to move out.
Like, this is the thing
he's
with
like,
Archie.
I'm gonna move out now.
He's amazing, but the way he jumps from like point C to like F, like, he like doesn't connect the two things.
He's like, I'm gonna do this. And even Mary, so he decides to move into the El Royale to stay away from Mary because she could be in danger. He's like, Mom, so now you're putting your mom,
I need to move out. She's like, what? I just moved back into town because of you.
And now you're gonna leave me alone in this house by myself, unprotected, and you think that that's the best decision? I'm just like, what parent would go along with this?
I almost felt like it was a logistical decision on like the producers to like not film at their house anymore, because like it just felt like such a weird like pivot for his character. Like, who cares if he lives at home? Like, what's the big deal?
I was like, is that what you took away from Mrs. Burble? That you had to move out?
Yeah, I can't be with my own mother. Okay, I'm moving out. It's like, okay.
And that's the thing. I will say, and I'll say this a little bit later for another character. I'm going to say it right now. It's Veronica. But I think that between Veronica and Archie, they listened, but they did like literally the opposite of what they should have done based on what Mrs. Burble told them to do. So I'm like, okay, Archie, just keep doing you, I guess.
It's like their own ego or like their own pride gets in the way of the advice, and then they go do their own thing.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not at all what you told you to do, but
All
okay,
right.
cool. So he decides to start this hotline. He sets up like an old school answering machine, and he throws his mask in the garbage, but it's only like on the lip. So it's like it's just kind of hanging there. He's like, I'm going to throw you out, but like also like maybe I'll pick you up later, which he does. So he's like, see you in 25 minutes. Anyway, moving on, we'll move on to Cheryl. She gets called into Mr. Honey's office, and he says, so, Cheryl, you've been missing like 17 weeks of school.
Like, what's going on, bitch? You fucking crazy? You've been at home this whole season.
Yeah. And she's like, basically, and it is interesting because I was like, why doesn't she just homeschool herself at this point? Like, why does she need to go to school? I legit
thought she was being homeschooled because I'm like, this girl has not left her house. Like,
Nana is just like out here teaching her like arithmetic or whatever. But so he says, and rightly so, as much as I want to hate Mr. Honey, he does make a good point. He's like, so the Vixens need a lead and you're not here, so I'm gonna take over as the head coach. And she was like, fuck you, how dare you take the Vixens away from me?
He said he was gonna take it over.
Yeah. Oh. Well, he's like, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to bring an adult in to help with this. He doesn't name himself until the very end when Mrs. Burble's like, I think that he's gonna stay on as the coach. But anyway, so that's what happens. So before he takes them away, he's like, you're going to go see Mrs. Burble to see if you're like mentally fit to take this on right now. And so that's when her whole storyline starts. And hers was great. What did you think about that whole
First of all, I think
thing?
Definitely like her acting was the best.
On
for
point.
Sure, her acting
Loved
was like
it.
insane. And I think like out of everyone, I know everyone's gone through a lot of shit, and I loved Betty's part too, but I think Cheryl's was the most needed. I think at this point in like who she is as her character, like definitely like, girl, you need to see someone. And she admitted it too. She was like, am I crazy?
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with me? And then I loved Burble's like advice to her too. She goes, you're not crazy, you miss your brother. And then it was so sad. It took me back to like season 1. I was like, it's at the core of who she is. She just misses her brother. She has no other family. Her mom's freaking crazy and her dad's dead.
Right. There was so much of this part that I was taking away, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe, like truly, I cannot believe it's taken them this long to get here. Season 4, episode 8.
This episode felt so like it was not Riverdale. Like I felt like I was watching a different show. I felt like I was watching the grown-up version of Riverdale.
Yeah. And not even just that, like outside of the writing, which was obviously great, and we were able to see a different side of the show and what it can do for these characters. Also, like the direction was great. The shots were shot very interesting too. And I wonder if it has to do with the movie that it's probably based on in treatment. So maybe there is a connection there, but like I found a lot of...
Was it...
No, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like,
but I found that the shots were very like stylized, where like everything in the forefront and the background were in focus at the same time, which is like a cinematic style choice. So I thought that was really interesting. Anyway, I'm just talking about the shots in general, but her just breaking down all the things that are happening, but at the same time really being Cheryl through and through, where she puts on this like very icy, fiery, I should say, kind of exterior, where she's like, I don't need to do this, like we're done here, you're a loser, I hate you. So there's all these moments where, Mrs. Burble's trying to get through to her, and she's like, no, you clod, or like, no, you dumb dumb, this is how I feel.
Like a tech school, and she's like, actually I have like my PhD, bitch.
So I love the fact that Miss Burble was able to disarm her through all of Cheryl's kind of outbursts throughout the session. But yeah, you made some really good points. She does say, like, you've been through some shit. You must be so exhausted going through this. How are you coping with it? And she does say, like, I'm talking to my dead brother, like, and he answers me back, and I can hear his voice, and I think I'm going crazy. Have I always been this insane? Like, is it part of my family's like lineage? She starts talking about the fact that this ghost is haunting her, or the body of Julian is haunting her. And they bring that part of it up too. And I think it really starts to ground Cheryl's storyline a little bit more, where, obviously Riverdale's not meant to be a supernatural show, so we can't assume that she's going through a passion storyline.
No,
there's
for
not
sure.
a tiny little doll in the corner who's actually moving and also haunting her.
But I was surprised.
So the fact that Mrs.
And I want to know if you were surprised as well. Were you surprised that Burble got to that conclusion that quickly? I'm trying to think about our guidance counselor in high school. She would have been ma'am, your daughter's on crack. She needs help. But this woman was like, you know what? I think someone's pranking you. You're not crazy. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, she's definitely top of the line, grade A guidance counselor psychologist. I think they even say it at the very end where she says, she's like, I'm very underpaid for what I'm doing right now. Overqualified, underpaid. No, I think that she definitely, I don't think there's anything sketchy about that. I think that she's just really bringing forward all of these things that who else is going to talk to Cheryl this
true.
way? That's going to make sense. Tony, fucking Nana, no one's gonna break this down for Cheryl the way that she did. So speaking of which, she also says that you haven't lost your mind. There could be someone who's gaslighting you to make you think that you're going crazy. And right away, who came to your mind when she said that?
Tony.
Fucking Topaz. I thought the same thing, and I was like, that must be the obvious choice though. But then I'm like, who the hell else is in this fucking house? There's nobody else.
So I think the movie that they were referring to in the movie, it's she's being gaslighted by her husband.
Oh, so it could be Tony then.
Yeah.
But why though?
I don't know if there was a malicious intent behind it. In my opinion, I think Tony probably is doing it to maybe save Cheryl. Maybe this is the only way she thinks she can get through to Cheryl, to be wake the fuck up.
To push her to the edge, so then she can be I gotta figure my life out.
This is the last straw, but maybe it's gonna backfire. Obviously, it's gonna backfire. We know that.
I mean, it's obviously gonna backfire.
But I don't think it's a malicious thing. I think she's just probably trying to help out, and this is her only way of doing that.
See, I would agree with you. However, that exchange that they have at the very end at Pop's Diner, which we'll talk about a little bit later, it didn't feel like she was being malicious.
You think she was being malicious?
No, she wasn't. I felt like Tony was I don't know what's going on. Cool.
Yeah,
I still support you. I love you.
I think I was waiting for a cut to her face, Tony's face, but they didn't. So that makes me feel like they don't want us to really suspect Tony just yet. They want to give us another piece of the puzzle before we start saying her name.
I mean, who else? Who else could it be?
It could be the family, someone in the family.
The only person that I can think of that could be doing this is Penelope, and she's just been hiding in Thistle House this whole time.
Or maybe there really is a Julian out there. I don't know.
I don't know. I just. The way that they've set it up, it seems like it's going to be Tony, and that could be interesting because then that will mean that there'll be the end of CHONI for at least a little bit of time.
Which makes sense because they've been together for 2 years now. So
it's necessary to have that kind of upset, and I think that I think across the board, what we've been noticing from a lot of our followers on Twitter and people who have been talking online, a lot of people are kind of sick of the CHONI storyline because Tony has become just a weak character who doesn't really have much of a voice, which is what we've been saying since the beginning of the season. And maybe this will separate them to the point where she'll be able to be independent again.
Maybe.
But it'll be interesting to see how they resolve that. Because if it is Tony, which I do think it is, I'd love to see how that all kind of comes out in the wash. So going back to that, she says, you're not being haunted. You probably didn't get your body absorbed. You probably didn't absorb your brother. So you're probably not haunted for that reason. We can do an actual test. I'd love to know if you guys can let me know if there is an actual test.
Was this another thing of fucking serial killer gene? I was like,
serial killer
damn show. And even Cheryl was like, you really waited this long to tell me there's an actual test?
Yeah. So anyway, she does a test. She finds out later, but we'll get to that in a bit. And she does tell Cheryl at the very end, I think we're still gonna have to take the Vixens away from you because you need to heal, you need to figure your life out. And then, you know, it shows Cheryl going into the locker room and crying with her HBIC shirt, and then that's kind of how her story ends. Let's cut to Veronica and her storyline. So it starts off with Veronica at home. Hiram calls her into his office, and he's just like aligning his fancy rum in the back of his area behind his desk. And she's like, "What do you want from me? I don't care. I hate you, Danny. It's so annoying." Like, she just, it's but the same I still come to you when you call storyline. Like, yeah, but it's also the same banter back and forth. Like, "Oh, Dad, I hate you. Dad, I hate you. Dad, I hate you." Like, it's just 7 different versions of the same storyline, which I'm glad it you know, kind of gets talked about in her session with Miss Burble. But yeah, basically he says, "Oh, aren't you going to hear back from Harvard today?" And she's like, "Yeah, bye." So she goes to school. She gets a phone call from the dean, and he tells her, "You got into Harvard. Congratulations. Thank you for the but thank your father for the rum and all the things that he
how
did."
How good is the motherfucking rum that like you accepted the daughter into freaking Harvard, bro? A bottle of rum is like $70. Like,
unless Hiram's pulling a Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, and he out here giving him some more money than that. I felt like this was very, very topical and very timely of a thing to happen to her. But yeah, it was just funny. And then there was a really fun cut where she's like, "Son of a," and then it cuts to the next scene where she's with Miss Burble, and it's like, "Butterfinger? Would you like a Butterfinger?" So then it gets kind of into her storyline. And basically Veronica's just angry. Yeah. She presents herself as a very pissed off, "I'm angry at my dad. I've got daddy issues." And that's kind of what Ms. Burble says. She's like, "You got daddy issues. You're doing this." She says, like, "You're in a lock with a dance of death with your father. Who's leading, him or you?" Like, it's very,
you're obsessed with your daddy. Like,
yeah, you're obsessed.
Which I get it. She is right. And she is obsessed. And I'm kind of getting over this whole like dynamic of like daddy and daughter. Like, just be done with it.
I'm over it. Yeah. And, you know, one of my favorite lines that she says, she's like, "Cut ties with your dad. He's trolling you. Why not ghost him?"
And then Veronica, who is like the fucking epitome of like the dumbest lines, she's like, "Miss Burble, like, get your like teen like quotes like in check." I'm like, who are you?
You cannot speak to this conversation. You're the worst of all of them. But yeah, so but it's funny because she does make a lot of points that we've been asking ourselves too. Is, you know, Veronica keeps complaining about her dad. Her dad's evil. Her dad's this. Her dad's that. But, you know, Ms. Burble says like, "Yeah, but you're still living at home. You still call, you know, you still answer when he calls you."
Yeah, literally, like,
you still,
the second she said that, she's like, "Why do you still live at home?" I'm like, yes. We
fucking said that last episode.
I was like, yes. Like, it's true. Why are you still living there? Move out.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, so I thought her whole situation, but what I thought was funny about this, because we'll talk about it later, is Miss Burble's suggestion to Veronica is to still pursue Harvard. Like, she was like, "I think you should still go to school. I think you should still go to Harvard, but you need to consider your relationship with your father. Try to distance yourself from him. Don't engage in any unhealthy behavior with him." And that's it.
Like, truly,
that's literally what she says to her. Like, cut him out. Don't let him like control you in any of those situations. Don't let him like egg you on and make you feel emotional. And Veronica's like, "Okay, fine." But clearly she's about to do like literally the opposite thing. So anyway, before we get to that, we're going to get to the final part of the core 4, which is Mr. Jughead Jones. And it starts off by him talking to Mr. DuPont, and Mr. DuPont's like laying into him. He's like, "You didn't apply to any colleges. You're not going to get any recommendations from us. So you better go to your old school to get transcriptions or your transcripts." And that's kind of how he ends up talking to Miss Burble.
Riverdale High so that he could talk to Burble.
Force him back to Riverdale High. Yes. But I was like, okay, cool. But also, like, DuPont, I'm surprised that he's even putting up with his shit right now, but it's fine. Anyway, Jughead's talking to Miss Burble, and the big things that he takes away is, or she takes away from talking to him, is she says that he has something called a persecution complex, where he feels like he needs to blame people for the issues that are going on in his life, and there should be some retribution for the wrongs that have happened in his life. And she makes a lot of really good points. You know, she says something about the fact that, you know, because he tells her, he's like, yo, this whole school took away my family's future and like painted my grandpa as like a loser and this and this. And she was like, but maybe you should just tell, like, you know, keep it real and realize that your grandpa might not have been that amazing, and it's really your dad that you should be focusing on. You should be really appreciating what your dad has been going through for you. And I did love that they made Jughead like very self-realized, where he really, like, while he was sitting in with her, he's like, wow,
well, I think that was
selfish.
think that was the magic of her, because they would most of them came in with this attitude of like, who the F are you? Like, I don't give a F. And she just broke them down, and she made some really valid points. And like, especially with Jughead and Cheryl, like, she made them see, you know, her way or her opinion, and like they were like, Jughead was like, oh my god, because she was like, she's like, instead of like making your grandpa the hero, like, look at your dad for a second. And then he was like, true,
right. And he's like, she's like, do the work. And he does mention the fact that he's doing investigations, but she also says at this point, you know, do whatever you want to do, but really put in the work so you don't feel like you're constantly pointing fingers at people and constantly blaming other people without really knowing the full story. So I love the fact that she was like, don't give up on this, but also try to put a little bit more thought into how you're going to do this. And his kind of storyline ends off really cute, where he is waiting for his dad at home, and when FP walks in, he just goes straight up to him and gives him a hug and thanks him for being there for him and supporting him, and, you know, all this stuff. And I was kind of shocked that they put it in, because I didn't know where they were or what angle they were going to take.
Said that, wasn't FP like a loser dad most of his life, and only like recently he kind of picked himself up?
It is true, but I think that, you know, past all that, Jughead's trying to see beyond those particular issues and saying like, yeah, he's the sheriff of the town, and I should thank him for being a good papa now. But yeah, he was shit before for sure. But also you have to remember that Jughead wasn't like living with. I don't think Jughead was living with him alone for a while, right? His mom left, and there was all that shit that happened before too. So then it shows Betty coming home, and this is probably one of my favorite scenes. Alice is in the kitchen and she's just cooking, and she's trying to be normal. She's trying to keep out of her face. She says to Betty, you know, like, get ready for dinner. Like, just, can you please set the table? And when she goes to set the table, Betty sees a couple of letters, like one, I think, from an admission from a school. And then underneath that, she finds a check from her mom. That's all of her college tuition money. And that's when she turns around and says one of the cutest lines of the entire episode. She turns to her mom and she says, I love you most too, Mom. Aww. And I was like, yeah, you do.
As if like she like, obviously you're her only mom. Like, it's like, it's not like she has like, you know, like Alice has 3 kids. You just can't have a favorite kid. You only got one mom.
You can't have a favorite mom. You're like, you better be.
And your dad's a serial killer who's dead. So
your options are limited, my friend. Alice is like, who else do you think you have in this world? Also, really quickly, I have a question for our listeners and for you. Was the Cooper residence always this dark?
I know. I'm like, why is she chopping in like the darkness? Like, it was awkwardly
pure
lit.
Darkness.
It was so weird.
It's like a cave in there. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you guys are 2 seconds away from like a power outage. You might as well just
light
on
top
candles.
Of that, she's like cooking dinner. Like, it's not even that she's chilling like candle side, like fireplace. Like, she's cooking dinner. Yeah. Why is it so dark?
Like fucking Betty's going to like put the
I couldn't even see the
plates
mail.
down,
I was like,
set the
it's
table.
dark. Can someone turn on the goddamn light? I can't see who this check is from.
I was like, I know. But anyway, so that's her like kind of how her storyline ends this episode, which is really, really cute. I loved it so much. And then it cuts to Archie, and he's at the El Royale, and he plays a message because he got a call from a kid, which I thought was funny because I'm like, if you've been sitting at the El Royale this whole time, wouldn't you have picked up the phone?
Yeah, it's so true.
Why was there a phone call? Why was there an answering machine in the first place? So anyway, he hears this call and the kid is like, my mom is getting beat up by somebody and I need some help and whatever. And of course, Archie in Archie fashion doesn't call the police or doesn't whistle blow. He goes back to the trash where the mask is still sitting on that lip. And he takes the mask and he takes a bat and he heads out the door, and that's how his storyline ends. And I'm like, at this point, what the fuck?
I feel like he's being set up.
what? I feel, yes, I definitely feel like he was being set up in this moment for sure. I was like, okay, there's a hotline and someone's calling him. He's like, please come now. I need your help right now.
It sounded weird.
I was like, this sounds sketchy. I was waiting for it to happen this episode. We're obviously going to have to wait till next episode to see what happens. But yeah, I'm just like, Archie just keeps going back to the same shitty conclusions. Why do you think that they make his character so stagnant?
I don't know. He's been kind of, like I love the message that his character, is putting out this season. I just feel like it's not going. They're stuck with it. Like they don't know what else to do with it.
They're stuck. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I really don't know where they're going to end off with him, because this constant, bad judgment, the bad judgment calls that he's been making, even with a counselor saying like, don't go out there by yourself, don't do this, and he still does it. I'm like, you're a lost cause, bro, at this point. Like, I'm gonna just wait for you to die by the end of the series. Because if you think
about it, like realistically, if you could write for Archie's story tomorrow, what would you write? Like, yeah, he's gonna save the town, he's gonna save Riverdale, and then what? Like, what does that mean? Like, is he gonna run for office? Is he gonna like clean up the environment? Or is he gonna be a vigilante? Like, I don't know.
It's like, what are the
I'm
things?
definitely down for him to run for mayor or like to be in politics so that he can change things for the town. Like, I'm over this vigilante storyline for him. Like, we've done it and it's not going anywhere.
It's not working. Gina Torres done told us it ain't working, y'all. It ain't working. So yeah, I hope maybe by next episode that is what happens. It is a setup and he finally gets his final wake up call. I'm just kind of over him making mistakes that he's supposed to learn from, but he doesn't learn from. Like, he literally does not learn from any of them. He got attacked by a bear and he still is acting like a fool. Like, I don't understand. Anyway, cutting back to Cheryl and Tony, as I mentioned earlier, at Pop's Diner, and they're opening up these test results. And like I said, Tony doesn't know what's going on, and she even admits it. She's like, I don't know what these test results are, but good for you. Like, I'm so happy for you, whatever, because they come out as negative. So she didn't eat Julian in the womb. And Tony's like, cool, good for you. But yeah, they don't really cut back to a point in time where we're supposed to assume that she is the one who's moving Julian around. But I don't really know what's happening. Like, is Julian animatronic? Like, what the fuck is going on right now? Is it a Chucky doll? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of all pans out. But right now, my money's on Tony. I think that she's the one that might be gaslighting Cheryl. Cutting to Veronica and Hiram. Veronica is just hanging out in his office, and she's taking a few sipples, some underage drinking. She's taking some sipples of his rum, and she admits to Hiram that she's
well, he comes in like freaking out. He's like, "Oh my god, Mija! Like, what?" He's like, "You're not going to Harvard? What?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I'm not going."
Yeah, I did.
You gave that guy rum, and your rum is shit. So
And what do you think that she made the right choice?
I mean, look, here's the
doing
thing.
this, deciding to
Here's the
reject
thing.
Harvard.
I really believe that, yeah, like I understand why she wants to make it on her own completely. Like I get it. Like you don't want him to like,
me too.
you know, put his name in, and I get that. But what she does in this scene, I'm like, girl, I roll. Like, I'm so over you. Like, she's like swinging the rum. She's like, trying to act all like fucking badass. And he's like, what are you going to do then? And she's like, oh yeah. She's like, you know what the like therapist told me? She told me to kill you. But I'm not going to do that, obviously, because I'm not like you,
she's
Dad.
Like, I'm going to kill you.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to war with you. Like business battlefield. Like what? You've already been doing that.
I'm gonna
for
take
2
you
seasons.
down.
You've been on a business battlefield. Like you've been running your own freaking speakeasy. Like we get it.
That was literally all of season 2's drama, was the fact that she got the speakeasy and she had to flub the books and get her arrested.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, she's gonna like keep doing it, I guess. No, she's like, and you know what?
Yeah.
Your rum fucking sucks. So I'm gonna make my own rum company and I'm gonna be better than you in the rum business. I was like, what? So she's gonna be a rum person now? Like what?
What the fuck?
Girl, you are a high school student. Go to fucking Yale, go to Harvard, go to some Ivy League, do your school, go do something else. Goodbye. Why are you trying to like run a rum empire now? Why?
I don't get it. Y'all.
Also, you're underage.
It's so confusing.
You probably can't own a rum company.
You can't even drink what you're making.
It was just
like, how are you gonna know?
Honestly, I wish she went in there and said, you know what, Dad, I'm gonna go to this school, like a random school. I'm gonna do my years and goodbye. Like I'm leaving. I'm moving out of the like town. I'm gonna live there. Like just completely cutting herself off from everything, and not like again, not battling him out on fucking business battlefield. Like what is this?
Yeah,
it sounds like some like reality show. Business battlefield.
Veronica, Luna, and Hiram Lodge are just head to head.
It's just like the way she, like Burble said it. She's like, you're kind of obsessed with him, and like she totally is. And it's in the beginning, it was kind of cute, and like their dynamic was super cute. But now I'm like, okay, you're either gonna be done with him or like don't be done with him. Like he's your dad, you know?
Yeah, I just feel like you're either cutting him out for life and being like that's the end of it. Or because it is true when you hear what Burble says, when she's like, you keep coming back to him. I'm like, yeah, no one asked you to visit him in jail, but you went and done visit him in jail as Monica Posh and fucking wore your wig and this and this. Like he keeps bringing you back. So like, what's the deal? Why can't you tell your dad, leave me alone? I don't want to be with you anymore. I don't want to, like, I don't love you. Like, I don't know. I just feel like something needs to come out of this, like something. And
I know we were talking about like now that Hermosa is in the show, she wasn't in this episode, but because we have her now in the show, maybe like Hiram and Veronica will have a better relationship or like sort of mend it, which I was kind of down for. Yeah. I'm kind of over this like back and forth bickering. And like who has the money? Like I feel like Veronica has this like endless supply of money. How? Who's running her money?
Yeah.
Like where did she get that much money from?
Exactly.
The speakeasy can't make that much money. So it's just I kind of wanted it a bit more from her character in this scene to be like, Dad, I'm actually done with you. Like goodbye.
For sure. And I think the one thing that really frustrates me with her character is truly she's the most even past Archie at this point, the most unbelievable character. Like
why?
She runs her own business, number one. Number two, anybody, I will say this with confidence and prove me wrong if I'm wrong, but no one in her position would turn down fucking Harvard. Are you dumb? Like, I don't care what your position is in life. Like, the fact that she has so much privilege and they've given her this much privilege as a character on this show, like, who's turning down like, Harvard out here? Like
Harvard, but like go to like Yale or something. Like.
But I don't even know who would like who would do that.
To me,
no one would really do that.
To me, her choice of where she wants to go for her future, I believe that. Like I get that. I just don't believe why the fuck would you go into a rum business right now? Like it makes zero sense. You have no knowledge on it. Like you're gonna be busy like in school.
Yeah. And trying to get into Yale apparently now. Like what the fuck? Like her character just is so far removed from the high school life that if they do like a 5 years later fast forward, maybe Archie and Veronica are going to be the best out of all of them. But right now, their storylines are too adult for
like,
this high school world.
I think that happened because I feel like they fucked up her character early on, and like they gave her all these things. They gave her the speakeasy, they gave her pops, it was like, dude, she's literally 16. What's going on? Like that can happen like later in her life for sure. But like, why is it happening now so early on?
But
and
why
so
now?
I think they're kind of left with like those pieces. Like, what do they do with those things now? You know, unless she literally says,
for sure,
Dad, take everything back. Like, here's pops, here's the speakeasy. Like, I'm leaving town. You know, I don't want your money. I don't want anything. I'm gonna just be Veronica, and that's it. Like, I would respect.
I'ma just be me.
I would respect her if she did that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with her character, but I'm just like I'm over it. I'm so tired of the same back and forth with them.
And then it took him like 20 minutes to realize that she was drinking his rum. Like, she was clearly drinking your rum in front of your face, and then he was like, huh?
It cut to his face, cut to the bottle, cut to the empty fucking casket. He was like, ah! You like
after she drank the whole bottle. Yeah,
I was
okay.
What else did you think? What else did you think she was drinking in your room?
I don't know if you ever had like fights with your dad, but like my dad would never just stand there and stare at my face like 2 inches apart and not say anything for 6 minutes. Like, she was going in on him, and he was like, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would be like, put that drink down, shut the fuck up. Like, get out of my house.
You're 16 years old. Like, the fuck's wrong with you? Don't you ever try to threaten me and tell me that you're gonna kill me in real life or on the battlefield. Like,
battlefield.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
My dad would start laughing. Like, he would have been like, okay.
I was like, this is a joke.
Do you even know how to write an invoice?
Go ahead and try. Oh man. Oh, Veronica. So the whole episode ends off with Bughead at home, and he's just really excited. Jughead's really excited to share with Betty, first of all, that he finished his story and his story is like lit apparently, but also that he's like about to bust open this investigation like for realsies, because he now has some like low-key information from other graduates who went mysteriously missing from the Skull and Quill group, and that's kind of going to be his point of investigation next. And then we get a final flash forward at the very end of the episode, and it shows Archie, Veronica, and Betty kind of lining up in a police lineup, and it's Donna and Brett, and they're like, yes, those are the kids. Those are the kids that we saw kill Jughead. And that is the end of this
which
episode.
made me believe more our theory of like they're definitely behind his fake murder, and like it's all like a setup.
But so you still don't feel like this has anything to do with Jughead's story?
I think it does, and I think but I don't think he's actually dead.
I don't think he's actually dead, but do you think that everything that we're seeing in the flash forward is just a reenactment of his story?
Yeah, it could be. I could see that.
Or do you think that like it's actually being played out and they're like fake killing him just so he can come back to life?
Well, the thing is, like, they said like do a murder, right? Like that was the whole theme of the book, whatever. So I feel like they're acting out that, like they're playing it out in real life.
They're playing it out in real life so that he can maybe catch the real murderers.
I don't know the purpose.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
Who knows?
I don't know. It just looks weird. I think that knowing that it's Brett and Donna, like if it isn't just a reenactment, I think that we will see it all kind of come together next episode, right? Next episode is the mid-season finale,
is it really?
right? Yeah.
Damn.
So I think we're gonna get that information next episode. Apparently, according to
you never know, right?
2019. Like things probably changed by now. All right, I think we're good. Is there any questions from our listeners or people online? I think people said that they really liked the episode. Yeah,
everyone loved the episode
on a general level. Yeah. Let's get into our recap roundups.
Recap roundups.
Best moment. Honestly, it was really hard to decide what my best moment was because I think this episode was amazing. Like I can't wait to watch it all over again. I think the ones that definitely stood out for me though, like the Betty and Alice scene with Miss Burble.
Yeah.
And the Cheryl scene with Miss Burble. Those two definitely stood out to me, and yeah.
Strong points. I would agree with you. I thought this whole episode was amazing. So needed. I've been missing these storylines since the beginning, and I didn't think it was that prevalent until we actually got to see it this episode. But I will say that my best moment was with Alice and Betty at the very beginning, where she like lays into her mom and is like, "This is what the fuck you've been making me feel like." And I was like,
and I just want to like attach that to what you're saying, because we're not going to get to it later. But one of the things that I did love what they said in the beginning when Betty and Alice get to Miss Burble's, and Alice was like, she's having sex and she's being reckless.
Yeah.
And Miss Burble was like, so you equate like being sexual to like being erratic and being like crazy, basically. And Alice was like, right. And I just love that line. Like, I loved how they talked about that and they mentioned that, because like it is important. Like, just because she's having sex with her boyfriend who she's been with for like how many years doesn't mean she's fucking losing her mind. Like,
for sure. And she even says, Betty even says, she's like, maybe I'm on birth control because I don't want to get underage pregnant like Polly and like you did, and like marry a psychotic fucking serial killer.
Literally,
like,
when she said that, my mouth was like, yo, like Betty Wayne's for best season line ever.
She's like laying on the truth
it's
bombs.
true. She's like, I don't want to get pregnant like you and Polly. I was like, WTF moment. WTF moment. I think I'm gonna go to the rum business Veronica wants to get into now.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest, like, what the fudge? Like, really?
Yeah, for sure.
Now?
And I'm going to go to the other side of the VARCHIE couple. Archie deciding to go out and follow this dum-dum who called him on the hotline. I'm like, you're setting it up for something bad, or it's just going back to what he was doing before, which I'm very disappointed in. I'm just kind of over him being this vigilante. I really hope that this turns around for him as a storyline soon.
MVP, I'm gonna give it to the Riverdale writers room for writing probably one of the strongest episodes of the entire series. I felt like I've said that already twice this season, which is amazing, because last season was like, I was like, I want to kill them all.
Canceled. Yeah,
so I just think, but they honestly, I think they touched on so many like important topics in like a 42-minute span. To hit on all these points is really, really hard. And to make them believable, right? Like, to these characters, and to answer these questions that we've had since the beginning. I think they did a fantastic job. So MVP for sure. Writers.
Agreed. I guess in the same vein, but giving it to an actual character, I was gonna give it to Miss Burble for spitting all them truth bombs, because I was like, this is amazing. But big ups to the writers for finally giving her, or giving the core for the five a person to talk to, because I thought that was so important.
I think that I don't want her to be this villainous character in the end, because I do want the idea of this guidance counselor, like someone who actually cares and listens. Like, the students should have that person. So, I want her to stay as that figure that like really cares and like gives them great advice. I don't want her character to be like, oh, she was the evil fucked up guidance counselor, that was like stealing information.
At the same time, what kind of message? Like, what message is that sending to the people who are watching this? So like, you can't trust your fucking guidance counselor for anything. Like, it sucks.
LVP.
Who's your LVP?
I'm going to give it to Kevin. And I don't blame Kevin. I think the writers again for writing Kevin. I think I finished the episode and I was like, where was Kevin's part? Where?
That's honestly, I didn't even think about that until just now.
Why didn't we get his part? I think his part.
Why didn't we get a part with him?
So fucking good. I think his part would have been like.
Oh my god.
I think his part could have spoken to so many people. Like real shit.
Yeah.
And like, for someone who hasn't gotten justice in terms of his character, like, this would have been the perfect episode to insert him and to explain the way he thinks and like the things that have happened to him and like how to deal with them and how he's gonna move forward. Like, perfect opportunity, and they fucked it up. Like, to spend 30 minutes on Archie so that he could get a fucking mask off the lip of the garbage to like go and do some next level shit. Like they wrote an amazing episode. Yeah, I will admit that. But like, come on, what happened to Kevin?
Yeah, it's so true. It's almost like they should have cut it into 2 parts or something. Like, we're not gonna get. I'm assuming that we're not gonna get to see Miss Burble again, and you're right. Kevin is the one character that we feel like we need more meat and bones and reasoning, and he needs therapy 100%. And you're right. I would love to see that story be told, because he has a great story to tell as a gay character, as a character who's been struggling with loneliness and this, like relationship issues. Like, he's got so many things that he can talk about.
And I feel like they always, and the why I'm saying it, because like they always pit like the core four plus Kevin and Cheryl. Like, it is Kevin and Cheryl added on. So like they did Cheryl, but why don't you do Kevin?
It's true. I guess I really do truly feel like they just ran out of time. They couldn't fit him into this episode, but it's true. Like, and it's so unfortunate because, you know, they really built up his character. They built up Casey Cott being a part of the regular crew, and then they're like holding back and pulling back, so like they're not even being like, oh, we're gonna see him next episode, or we're like, they're not even
like,
implying that he even exists in that world anymore.
Keep him for the fucking like musical episodes, and like for him being like, Veronica, like, what's going on, like the reaction to Veronica's news, like it's so lame and it's so embarrassing.
That's it.
For his character, it's like really upsetting, because like I get it, Archie's the main guy, I understand like he needs a certain amount of airtime like every week, but like he's been in every episode, he's been in everything all season, he's gonna be in all episodes. Why can't you just give Kevin like 10-11 minutes of this episode? I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely an unfortunate miss on this episode's part, for sure. My LVP on that point is gonna go to Archie. I'm like, switch out Archie for Kevin, because Kevin's got some shit that we need to hear.
It's not that Archie's like any less. It's just we've heard Archie's story already. Like we know the battles that he's facing internally, but like I could hear more of Kevin's. You know?
Yeah, and I'm more interested in getting an explanation from the fucking writers for why they're being so shitty with his character. Like, I need that explanation at this point.
The best line. Best line is gonna go to Veronica when she's talking to Burble, and she's like, "You're diagnosing me with daddy issues? How very intro to Psych."
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
it was so good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
My best line is gonna go to Betty, the very beginning, when she says, "It feels like I'm filled with gunpowder and I'm one Elizabeth away from exploding." And I was like living for it. That being said, the writing that they had between, you know, Miss Burble and the kids, all of them, like each one of them had great lines. Like Cheryl had good comeback lines. You know, even Jughead had some really interesting lines. Like they all had really great lines. But yeah, those are the ones.
I was like 10 minutes into the episode and I already had like 6 like best lines. And I was like, oh my god, I need to pick one.
I was like, dial down. Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, that is the end of our episode. A few announcements. As you mentioned at the top of this episode, we have our contest going on right now for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and a pop socket. And to enter, all you need to do is rate and comment on our iTunes page, and you'll be entered in the draw. We are extending, so alert, we are extending the contest to the end of the Riverdale season 4, where we're going to draw the lucky winner at our finale. I really do think that you guys should just do it. The reason why we're extending it is because no one has applied. So for all of you people who are listening right now, who are like, I'm not going to win that contest, you just might if you're the only one who like signs up. Also, since we're about to talk about Patreon, depending on what tier you're a part of, you'll also be automatically entered into the draw. You don't even have to leave us a comment if you really don't want to, but I'm assuming that if you are going to become a part of the Patreon family, that you'll at least do that for us as well. And you'll be entered 3 times or 2 times depending on your tier. So speaking of which, I would like to thank our patrons of this episode. We have our Rewinder squad. We have White and Nicole. And our Lit Rewinders, Tina Ann, Sarge, Serena, Soleil, Kate, and Jessica. And our Mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, and Grace.
And if you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind. If you join, you'll get access to all things Recap Rewind, exclusive contests, content, and updates.
And also make sure you guys are checking us out on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and you can find us on all podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.